George Walker Bush, the 43rd President of the United States, the 46th Governor of Texas, graduate from Yale, co-owner of the Texas Rangers, husband, and father. Born in New Haven, Connecticut, Bush would never know he was born into a line of politicians, as his grandfather became a senator of Connecticut, and his father would one day become president. Bush became the governor of Texas in 1994. His term in office was marked by cutting $2 billion from the property taxes budget, the execution of 153 capital offenders, and signing a bill into law proclaiming June 10, 2000, Jesus Day. In 1998, after winning 69% of the vote, he became the first Texan governor to serve consecutive four-year terms.
However, in the 2000 election, when George W. Bush ran for presidency, he ran into conflict as the other candidate for presidency, Al Gore, was at his neck in public appeal and votes, giving the deciding factor to who gets the presidency up to Florida.
Who got the 25 votes from Florida? Bush, after much controversy. Although Al Gore won the popular vote, Bush won the electoral votes. The controversy was sent to the Supreme Court before a recount could happen, resulting in Bush winning. Many believe Gore would have won if the Supreme Court had allowed for an official recount of votes.
In the normal course of events, presidents come to this chamber to report on the State of the Union. Tonight, no such report is needed. It has already been delivered by the American people. We have seen it in the courage of passengers who rushed terrorists to save others on the ground.
The first of the Bush administration's responses was the declaration of the War on Terror, along with the Afghanistan War. Another was the passage of the USA Patriot Act. This act equipped the federal government with new tools with which to combat terrorism, such as roving wiretaps. In 2002, the Guantanamo Bay detention camp was opened as a place to send prisoners taken during the War on Terror.
Now here we have speaking with us Dick Cheney to answer a couple of our questions.
Mr. Cheney, what do you think about 9/11?
9/11 was a wake-up call for Americans. It shows that these terrorist organizations will stop at nothing and that we must combat them as soon as we can.
Do you think that the Bush administration's response was appropriate?
Yes, it was entirely appropriate. The Middle East has been a volatile area for many years, and this just increased the incentive to go in and prevent these terrorist acts from happening again. There is no need for a further loss of American life.
Were you sure that another 9/11 would not happen?
Yes, we increased national security to protect the American people.
Bush removed us from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty to help with rogue involvements with weapons in the future. The American Service Members Protection Act prevented any U.S. military person to serve on the ICC or any international court which the U.S. is not a member of. He believed in free trade, but the WTO put sanctions on the U.S. for not following legal trading regulations. His administration cut spending to the United Nations Populations Fund because it promoted abortions and sterilizations in China. Bush put $10 billion to AIDS relief for over 100 countries, putting the U.S. at the most donated to AIDS relief of any country.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war. These are opening stages of what will be a broad and concerted campaign.
The Iraq War began in 2003 as part of the Bush administration's War on Terror. The war was justified by the Yellow Cake documents and other foreign intelligence verifying the presence of weapons of mass destruction, such as poison gas and other biological weapons.
George W. Bush received a lot of negative responses worldwide for his war on terror. He, however, believed that he was right and that the world was misguided.
What they should be angry about is the fact that there was a brutal dictator there that had destroyed lives and put them in mass graves and had torture rooms. Listen, I wish they could have seen the 7 men that came to see me in the Oval Office. They had their right hands cut off by Saddam Hussein because the currency had devalued when he was the leader. See? And guess what happened? And Americans saw the fact that they had their hands cut off and crosses or X's carved in their forehead. And he flew them to America, and they came to my office with a new hand, grateful for the generosity of America and with Saddam Hussein's brutality in their mind. Now, look, Saddam Hussein had used weapons of mass destruction against his own people, against the neighborhood. He was a brutal dictator who posed a threat.
Hurricane Katrina left a negative mark on Bush. His administration took too long to react, making him seem slow and ineffective as a president, and causing Americans as well as people around the world to become unhappy with him. Bush left the job in New Orleans to lower-level officials as well as the Louisiana government, who clearly were not trained or able to sustain the damage.
Once again returning to speak with us, Dick Cheney.
Some people criticize the delay in the Bush administration's response to Hurricane Katrina. What do you attribute this to?
Well, we believe that the Louisiana government should have the initial responsibility while the government came up with a plan to remedy the problem.
Do you think that you could have done more to help the Katrina victims?
Well, it was more of a localized state issue. We had larger issues to deal with. For example, the war on terror and increasing national security here in the United States.
Do you have anything else to say about the government's involvement in Hurricane Katrina?
Although it took longer than expected, our plan was the most thought-out plan that we could have had to remedy the disaster. And we made up for it by allocating additional funds to future disaster relief efforts, such as for floods, storms, and fires.
Similarly, George W. Bush had the following to say.
We fully understand that New Orleans can't be rebuilt until there's confidence in the levees. It's one thing to plan, it's another thing to convince people that the levees will work. And there's been a lot of effort by the Army Corps of Engineers. As a matter of fact, Don Powell announced the other day that we're going to complete work to improve storm and flood protection infrastructure to a 100-year protection level by 2011. And that's a commitment, and it's an important commitment to make. We're also going to fund $1.3 billion network of interior drainage projects to ensure the area has better hurricane protection. Or if there's federal responsibilities, the levee system is the federal responsibility, and we'll meet our responsibility. And there's a
The shoe incident is often misunderstood. Rather than a simple displeasure toward Bush by some random man at a press conference, it was a very serious matter that took place at the Iraqi Prime Minister's palace in Baghdad. The shoe was tossed as a sign of extreme disrespect in the Arab culture. To slap your shoe on someone is the biggest insult in the Arab world. Muntadar al-Zaidi, the man who tossed the shoe, did so because of all the widows, orphans, and other Iraqis' lives lost from the U.S.'s invasion. George W. Bush, with his cat-like reflexes, managed to dodge both of the shoes tossed by Zaidi and asked for everyone not to worry about what just happened. President Bush has been regarded as one of the most outspokenly religious presidents of the modern era. He has been heard citing Jesus Christ as being his influence, or that God himself chose him to be president. Greatly stemming from a turning point in his life where he gave up drinking and committed his heart to Christ, his strong Christian beliefs have been a major part of his life.
During the debate, the moderator asked the candidates what political philosopher or thinker they most identified with. Steve Forbes answered John Locke.
Instruments of government.
Alan Keyes named the Founding Fathers.
200 years.
Governor Bush, a philosopher thinker, and why?
Christ, because he changed my heart.
Every president has made mistakes as well as accomplishments, had their supporters and their opposition. Today, former President George W. Bush lives in Dallas, Texas, and other than speaking occasionally in the area, lives a quiet life with his family.